Welcome to Keeping Athena Company.
Hi, Athena.
I haven't started yet. I've got to do an intro. Wait. I'll do an introduction and then we'll go.
Okay.
My name is Athena Company. I'm a stand-up comedian, writer, now a podcaster, because I've done about 5 of these now. So I think that makes me a podcaster, doesn't it? And I'm a mum. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It's cool. But unfortunately, my child is quite young and she can't really speak in any language I understand. So what I do is I invite my friends around to come around, have a chat, keep my company, and I record it. This week I invited around, actually she's going to tell you what she is and what she does. Kate Weston!
What am I? I'm a writer.
Are you a writer?
I'm a writer.
What do you write?
I am writing a fiction book for young adults at the moment. Yeah.
So you're writing a book.
I am.
Am I right in thinking that you can't talk about this book?
I can't talk about this book.
Right. Are you writing a book?
Yes.
No, I can't talk about it. Can't talk about it at all.
It's all extremely secret and I can't say anything.
I'm thrilled for you.
Yeah.
But we have to leave it there. So what should we do if we'd like to know in the future about this mysterious book that you can't talk about?
I would follow me on social media.
Oh, okay. How do we do that?
And my name for Twitter and Instagram is at Kate Eliz Weston.
Okay.
And yeah, I would follow me on social media and I should be making an announcement in the next couple of weeks.
And is this your first book?
It is my first book.
Okay.
There's been other attempts.
Okay, so let's talk about the other attempts. No, let's do that. Have you always attempted to write young adult fiction?
No. As you know, because I met you, I used to be a stand-up comedian.
Yes, you did.
And I went through various stages of thinking maybe I could write like some kind of funny self-help book.
Like Adrian Mole.
Yeah. Maybe I could write like a steamy romance novel.
Oh yeah.
Which I've still not completely said goodbye to that dream. I think that's maybe for my retirement.
You could win the Bad Sex Award. I love the Bad Sex Awards.
I think that would be an honour to win the Bad Sex Award.
And it's all really outrageous things. Like, they use really outrageous similes for, like, intercourse. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Things like, then they stirred the coffee with the spoon. You think, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Which bit's the coffee?
Yeah, and what's the spoon? Why is it stirring? Actually, no, I know why it's stirring. Anyway, so...
just call it a vagina, don't call it a coffee.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say vagina?
Yeah, just my podcast. Say all of it.
When I stopped doing stand-up, one of the things I really didn't miss, though, was the audience members that come up to you afterwards and say things like, would you like me to tell you why I didn't laugh? And it's kind of like, would I come up to you in your day job and be like, would you like me to tell you why you're rubbish at your job?
Yeah, you forgot to carry the one and that's why your company didn't pay enough tax.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. And, you know, I don't normally like women, but you're really funny.
Yeah.
You think that's really odd. And it's not often women that say that. It's quite well documented. It's often women that give you that feedback. But did you enjoy performing stand-up comedy? I
loved it. Yeah. Absolutely loved it. There were times when I would cry the whole journey home, but that was fine. It had its ups and downs. It's quite a difficult industry to go into if, like, I have quite bad social anxiety and anxiety in general. And I think it's quite a maybe foolish thing to do when you have that sometimes in some ways. But it's also quite a good thing to do because I think it sort of opened me up a bit more and made me a bit braver and made me a bit like, do you know what? A room full of people just laughed at me and maybe I'm all right.
Did you know you had anxiety before you became a stand-up comedian?
Yes.
You did? Okay.
And it was so I had really bad anxiety and depression all through my teenage years. And when I started doing stand-up, I'd just come out of a really bad period where I couldn't leave the house.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I'd become quite sort of like...
So were you agoraphobic?
Not really properly, because it was only a few weeks where I couldn't actually leave the house. The rest of the time was like my boyfriend shuffling me out the door and I'd finally just got myself into work, so I'd got a job and I suddenly got really like brave. And we were sat in the pub one day and he was like, you know, why don't you start doing music again? Because I was a musician. And I said, to be honest, I'd rather do a stand-up gig with no preparation. And
was that a random thought or had you harboured that idea?
I'd sort of harboured it a bit because I like stand-up. It makes me laugh when I'm really depressed. And I sort of thought that must be such a nice thing to do when you're quite depressed, to be in a world of like laughter.
This medicine really helps. If I could make my own medicine, like if I could become my own drug dealer. Yeah. But did it work?
Sometimes. I think when I first started and someone came up to me and they were like, you're really funny, like you should do more of this. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then you start having the bad gigs, don't you? Yeah. And you start having the people going, you're not funny, you should give up. Yeah. Go back to your day job. What were you thinking?
And kind of these like audience members, other comedians, promoters.
Always audience members.
Wow, okay.
I found that other comedians were normally quite supportive.
Yeah.
I think because you're all in one big boat together, aren't you?
Yeah. I've listened back to some of my old gigs from like, 2014. I'm like, why didn't anyone tell me? I was like, be less supportive. I was really bad. Some of the stuff I used to say. And that's probably those kind of days we were crossing paths, especially on the London circuit. But you do grow. I want to talk more about the anxiety and depression you suffered as a young person.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about what caused it or anything like that, but what do you think has probably helped you navigate your way through that?
Yeah, so kind of an array of things, and I still have really, really bad days, but I've also got a really supportive boss, which helps.
Right.
Who, when I'm having a bad day, is like, hey, do you want to chat? Do you want to not chat? And that's really helpful.
And what do you do?
I work in publishing.
Okay, so you work in publishing and you're a writer. You're becoming a very accomplished person. More and more accomplished as this podcast goes on. Okay, so you've got a supportive boss.
Yeah. I got a kitten. That helps.
Yes, kittens help.
I went to therapy. I went to lots of different kinds of therapy. I went to CBT and I went to group therapy, which was, I think, the best thing I did.
Group therapy?
Yeah.
So what does that involve? Because I've heard of it, but I didn't know that people talk more about one-to-one therapy these days.
Yeah, so someone said to me, one of the therapists I was seeing was saying, I think the best thing for you is group therapy. And I looked at him and laughed and was like, that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
My name is Kate.
My name's Kate and I think I'm a bit of a loser. And I sort of got to my first therapy session, looked around, and I was just in a room full of people that were just like me, essentially. Yeah. And I was like, I don't really see how this can help. Like, I absolutely categorically don't see how sitting with loads of people who are exactly the same as me is going to help me with anything. And actually it really did, because you find that a lot of the people there have the same struggles as you, and you sort of find a way to work around them together.
Yeah.
Or you find you have like conflicts within the group.
And you commentate on that. It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah. And the fact that you get over those conflicts and you carry on and you're still a human, I think one of my big things used to be that I was worried about people hating me. Mm. And there was someone in group who hated me and I survived. And I was a bit like, okay, you don't like me, that's fine.
Right, not everyone's going to like us.
Yeah.
I remember comedy helped me come to that conclusion. Someone always said something that really helped me when I did my very first Edinburgh. And they said, look, a third of people are going to love you, a third of people are going to hate you, and a third of people just aren't going to care. And I thought, and a light bulb went on, and I thought, that is so true. And we spend our whole lives walking into a room and wanting everybody to love us. And that's just not everybody loves Homer,
Yeah.
Not everyone likes the Odyssey. They find it ridiculous.
As a literary person, by the way, when you said Homer, I was like, is she talking about The Simpsons? I really think I've earned my place in publishing.
Herodotus, and then I was like, that's a bit niche. The father of history. I don't think people are going to care about that. And then it went to Homer. But not everyone likes either of those guys. Who are your favourite young adult writers at the moment?
There's so many of them. So I've always loved Louise Renison. She was my absolute fave. Okay. And there's a whole new sort of wave of young adult writers. There is, at the moment, I'm reading a book by Laura Bates, who was the Everyday Sexism lady.
Oh, right, okay.
Called The Burning, which is a combination of talking about slut shaming and revenge porn and witchcraft.
There's drop witchcraft in there.
Yeah.
Is she a witch? Does she practice witchcraft?
No.
That became a thing for a little while. Do you remember when it became a thing to be a witch?
Yeah, when we were teenagers, there was you had your tarot cards and your, what were they, rune stones.
And people burning stuff.
Yeah.
Very weird in the 90s.
We were, but we didn't really have the internet.
We had the almost internet, which is the worst. So we're like, this could be great, but all we're doing right now is taking 3 hours to download one song. So whilst you're waiting for this song to download, let's cast a spell. What other writers do you like think are great?
There is a new writer called Lucy Powery, who is wonderful. She's written a book called Paper Hearts Society.
Very young adult title. Yes. Yeah. So I haven't read Queenie yet. I've been listening to it.
Oh my God, Queenie is amazing.
Yeah, because I can't read at the moment because of this child. Oh my God. So I'm doing those audiobooks. So I've got Queenie. Queenie's on BBC Sounds.
Is it?
Yeah, so that's why I'm listening to it. And it's great.
I might listen to the audiobook, even though I've read it, because I just absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And I feel like Queenie is such a turning point as well with books, in that it's diverse and it speaks to a whole new generation of people in the way that maybe Bridget Jones did when we were younger.
I love Bridget Jones.
Yeah.
I've maintained one of the funniest... Is it a British movie? I think it is. One of the funniest British movies ever made. It still makes me laugh. In the first one when she goes to the Tarts and Vickers party, I just cry.
I know.
It's so ridiculous. I love Adrian Mole.
Yeah.
I've forgotten how much I loved Adrian Mole. So we've got a bookshop where I live, and every time I walk past it, I buy a book, which is outrageous. But they sell lots of second-hand books, and I got Adrian Mole the Cappuccino Years for 1990.
Oh, that is such a good one.
And I'd forgotten how formative those books were for me as a young person because he was so awkward.
Yeah.
And I now reflect on it, I think those books really informed my humour, actually.
Yeah.
Just making people look small. People are so small and petty. But showing that pettiness from someone who's even smaller and pettier than them, it's just great.
Yeah, I think I reread all of those quite recently and was just blown away by how funny they are.
And his obsession, it's so pertinent now with Me Too.
Yeah.
Which I really like. How would you describe yourself as a teenager?
Terrible.
Terrible. You're a bad teenager. What's a good teenager?
I mean, I don't know if there is a definition for, because I think teenagers now are given such a bad rep, and I think essentially they just need more support.
Yeah.
And I think if I was a teenager now, I don't know what I'd do, because you've got social media is constantly there, phones are constantly there.
Yeah.
There's budget cuts, so the mental health system isn't what it used to be. So, they've got the whole thing where the government's putting money into giving teachers mental first aid training. And you just think, why are you giving that to teachers who are already, they're not trained, they're already overstretched. All that's going to happen is that they're going to get referred back to the NHS again.
Yeah.
Why not give that money to the NHS?
Young people get a bad rep. So first of all, when people say complain about the youth, they should be complaining about the adults, because it's the adults that are teaching the youth and they're learning from. And secondly, I think that when I was young, I was kind of very unfashionable. We didn't have a lot of money, and my mum didn't understand the design of clothes and stuff like that. So even if I asked for a feeler trainer, she'd been like, feeler known, So I was very awkwardly dressed. I was a bit chubby. I was shy. Lots of insecurities. But I didn't have to worry about people not liking my posts on Instagram. When I went home and watched TV, I watched The Crystal Maze. I didn't watch Love Island. I was kind of spoken to via things like Big Magazine and Smash Hits Magazine. So these are very disposable things. And the things that made me feel insecure, I could get away from quite easily. And it was very easy, I think, to be a bit of a nerd back in the 90s and the early 2000s, because you could just lock yourself away and no one will bother you. Whereas teenagers, I feel for them now, I think it's harder to hide from the oppressive things. So, I mentioned Love Island. I don't know if I would have coped well as a teenager with what teenagers have to cope with now. I would have found my insecurities amplified massively by all the baby oil and the six packs and the bikinis
and the filters.
And the boohoo.com mini dresses that cost £5. And I feel like teenagers are being seen as a resource for money. Older people are broke because they're trying to pay their mortgages. Even older people are broke because their pensions have been taken away. But now you've got these teenagers who don't have a lot of money, but the money they do have, they're willing to squander because they don't have any aspirations to save or do anything like that. So they're being targeted in this way, which makes me worry about teenagers. And that's why the mental health conversation, I think, is so much more coming to the fore now, because it's affecting young people. So this book's going to fix that.
Yeah. Sure.
This was going to fix that. So I guess it sounds like you were quite unhappy as a teenager.
I had quite a bad eating disorder.
Right.
I was quite badly anorexic and I didn't really have many friends.
Right.
And I think that is very much of the nature of having an eating disorder is that you do sort of isolate yourself. You don't really want to make friends with people.
Did you consider that you had one and that you wanted to get well, or did you think, this is me, I want to own this?
Well, interestingly enough, when I started to get friends, when I started to get a bit older, so I was really into music. I played guitar. I was quite good at it. When I was about 15, I was in a band with some older boys.
Yeah.
Maybe some of which I might have fancied a little bit.
Maybe.
And as I started to do that and I got more friends and I started to feel like life was a bit better, I realised, and I think when you start hanging out with people again, you're like, these people eat. They're eating quite what I would consider quite a lot. And for them, and you start piecing stuff together in your head. And I sort of realised when I was about 17, 18, I think I might need to do something about this.
Right. So it wasn't like someone intervened. You personally, you personally kind of thought to yourself, this isn't sustainable.
Yeah.
Or enjoyable.
Yeah. And I got to a stage where I was auditioning for music colleges and the level of practice I was having to do, I was getting really bad pains in my back and my arms. And the doctor was like, well, it's because you're not eating enough to sustain your yourself basically, and your muscles are knackered. So it was really I have to do something.
Yeah. So what I think you're saying is that a sense of purpose really get you better.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily going to apply to everyone.
No.
Do you think that then helps you with your other depression and anxiety issues? Is that maybe what stand-up comedy was the attempt to do? If I could be a comedian, I'd get out of the house.
Yeah, there was definitely that. And it was if I could be a comedian, I could make myself and other people laugh.
Yeah.
That's a reason to get out. But also the awful thing with depression is that you can do things that are really good and you will think they're really bad. So
is that depression? I thought I think what I do is shocking. But I know what you mean. Yeah. Does it come to the point where you think it's so bad you withhold it to your detriment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So certainly with stand-up, I became so anxious and so afraid of doing things that were really bad that I just sort of stopped doing it. So
this is what I think about stand-up. Right? And again, this is quite a well-documented quality of the art form. It's one of the only creative endeavours that we create in front of the consumer. Okay, well, it's the only one that happens. If I'm a songwriter, I go in my studio and I write songs and I write songs and I write songs. I'm like, oh, this is a good one, and all the crap ones get put in the bin, right?
Yeah.
But we don't really. I mean, you get to a point where you know when your jokes are decent or bad, but we don't really know until we get out there and say it and make people laugh. So what comedy made me do, what comedy did for me, is it made me become comfortable with being bad.
Yeah.
So rather than thinking, oh, everything I do is great, I suddenly think, well, if it's bad, I'm only going to know if I expose the shit to people.
Yeah.
If my shit stinks, they'll wave away the smell and we'll carry on. And that was very, going for that process definitely has been a benefit to me now, because it does make you quite fearless. I have an incredible fear of failure.
Yeah.
It's held me back massively in my career for all kinds of reasons, in all kinds of ways. But I've pulled myself through the industry with that fear, just knowing that there's a level at which I can just bomb and it's totally fine. I'll just take that money from the promoter, I'll apologise, and then hope the next gig will be better,
Yeah.
And that's what I got out of comedy, and it's great. It's great to suddenly realise every failing is a lesson, or every loss is a learning. I think I've seen that on Twitter or something.
Yeah.
I've seen it on Instagram posts.
Twitter, where failing is not allowed.
Yeah, I'm trying to be less outraged.
Yeah.
There's James Baldwin has a very famous quote, which is, to be conscious is to be angry all the time.
Yeah.
But you have to be conscious of the right thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like social media, and particularly Twitter, everyone's hyper conscious of my phone. My phone's really old. I don't like to upgrade my phone, and I still have the plastic film on my phone. It's quite sticky. So sometimes when I'm scrolling through things, I like things by accident.
Oh, I do that.
Oh, it's my worst people will get, did you mean to like this, Athena? You know, that is a Nazi. So what do you think? Do you think I meant to like it? And you got to go back and unlike the damn thing. And you've done it by accident, just because I wear a lot of makeup and it makes my phone sticky.
I mean,
that's all it is.
And you shouldn't have to apologise for that, for having, wearing a lot of makeup and making your phone sticky.
Also, people who you would never imagine say the most outrageous things on Twitter, and you think, but I've met you and you're really nice.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. You're a really nice dude. Why are you acting in this way?
Yeah.
And it's because you don't have evolution in evolutionary terms. I'm not an anthropologist. I'm making this all up. I'm making this all up. But in evolutionary terms, all of our habits and eccentricities as humans and the way we interact come from us talking like this. So we make an eye contact. There's pheromones flying around. There's embarrassment. There's laughter. There's all of this stuff, and all of the things that would normally police our behaviour disappear when you're in a basement. And so there's no policing anymore. And people get brave with that anonymity.
They do.
I mute now. I mute. I get so many. I mean, I think it's good that I get lots of comments now because it means that I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
Career-wise. But I get so much trash. I just mute. And because I realise they're not worth any time.
Yeah.
They're just being argumentative because they're bored.
Yeah. And it's sad, really, that they don't have better things to do.
Well, I think we need to do a lot to make sure the generation of young people we have now who have known nothing but social media don't become that person in sort of 10, 20 years' time. Because it's easily done.
But it's so tricky as well. I think it must be tricky for teenagers to step away from their phones now.
I can't do it.
Because
I'm 37, I can't do it.
Yeah, because you're like, well, what's going on there without me?
Mm.
Like, it's like everyone's at a party and there's loads happening, then you've chosen FOMO. That's what it is. That's what the kids call it.
Just for the older people, that's fear of missing out. Kate's a little bit younger than me.
I'm down with the kids now.
Do you like Red Dwarf?
I do. I haven't watched that in years though.
There's just it's something that's detailed in one of the books. It's in episode 2 where people get addicted to a virtual reality headsets. When they put them on, they're in like this amazing world. But when you take them off, you realise they're just like drug addicts in the street, just like passed out, homeless. But when they put these headsets on, it's like everything's great and people get addicted. And that's it. And I'm always thinking of the episode and that story because it's just like social media. That's what it's like. Yeah. And people whilst they're staring at their phones, they're not looking up and they're not seeing like the world around them.
To me, taking a selfie is such an odd concept.
Yeah, it is. It's massively odd.
Because it's like, how often do you need a picture of your face?
Yeah.
How often do you need to show that to people? But then I can't talk because I have got literally like 1,000 pictures of my cat on my phone. I like to document every little thing that he does.
Like one of those time-lapse things where you just show Angus getting bigger. Oh, can we say the cat's name?
Yeah, of course we can. It's fine.
I don't know why we wouldn't be able to do that.
I had to sign a social media release form for him the other day.
Why? What will happen?
Well, because I took him to the vet and they were like, oh my God, he's the cutest kitten I've ever seen. Can we take a picture of him for our social media? And I was like, yeah, of course you can. And then they produced this paperwork and they were like, yeah, we just need you to like sign his release form to say he consents.
That's really funny. Like, does he consent?
Well, I asked him and he said nothing because he's a kitten. So I think probably.
Angus, do you mind if this vet puts you on their social media stream and he's there just like eating his tail?
Yeah. I mean, he just, the things that kitten does, because he's 5 months now. And I think I feel about my kitten the way most people feel about their children. And
I feel about your kitten the same way I feel about my child. Like, it's really cute. The thing is, if you ask a cat, can I go on Instagram? The cat's will be like, well, yeah, that's how we're taking over the world.
Yeah.
You're literally giving us the planet on a plate. Of course, put him on Instagram.
He's reaching, I think he might be reaching adolescence. Because I've noticed him doing some stuff just lately.
Is he a good teenage cat or a bad teenage cat?
I mean, he's quite a hilarious one. So I walked into the living room the other day and my boyfriend was just going, oh my God, Kate. And I was like, what? And he was like, well, the cat's just like there, like licking his balls and he's got an erection.
Teenage years. Yeah.
And I was like,
if teenage boys can lick their balls.
I was like, oh my God, our kitten is wanking. I need to make him some pants. Like, so we've booked him in for his, for his little op.
Oh, he's going to get neutered.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't have a kitten giving himself one. It takes a kitten. You can't put that on Instagram, can you?
Well, no, exactly. And I need him to stay decent so that he can sell my book for me.
Was he not just peeing his balls? Because a lot of guys don't do that. If we lived in a matriarchy, we wouldn't be selling Femme Fresh, all right? We'd be selling like Ball Fresh.
Well, some of them need it though, don't they?
I'm going to write a show about this, I think. But I often think...
What about ball cheese?
No. What kind of freak do you think I am? Can you imagine a show about ball cheese? No. So I often think about how the world would be different if we was in a matriarchy. So I think a lot about how, for a long time, it's always happened, women get blamed for rape culture. You're wearing this, you led him on. In a matriarchy, what would happen is we'd say, well, actually, it was I was ovulating and it was irresistible and I couldn't help myself, Your Honour. Because obviously, anyone who's tried for a child or anyone who understands the female cycle will know that as you ovulate, you just become really horny. And then studies have shown that women dress more provocatively when they're ovulating because they're trying to attract a mate. Did you know
Is that why I do it?
You're just ovulating all the time. But we understand men and their quote unquote urges because we talk about it all the time. Men need this, but women have the same chemical urges too that are evolutionary but
it wasn't that long ago. Like, it wasn't that long ago that we were called hysterical for having urges and sent to a doctor to sort them out. But
men were allowed to go out and men literally drop bombs on countries because of their their big dick energy or whatever you want to call it. But when you think about like sexual violence, for example, it's excused, but it's just accepted that men behave in this way. But if you're in a matriarchy, that's one of the things that would basically, and men would be like, going, it's not fair, just because you're ovulating doesn't mean you should have tied me up in your basement. But we'd have been like, well...
You gave me no choice.
It's how we were made.
Yeah.
So the other thing I think about is like this obsession with like how vagina should be presented and what it should look like. Whereas, I'm sorry, dicks come in a much larger variety of shapes and sizes and odours. And we would be talking about that more if we was in a matriarchy.
Well, exactly. And I feel like there's this whole expectation for women to be like neat and tidy, whereas men are just like, just flop it out and do what you do.
Like, how dare you?
I haven't seen a dick actually, Athena. I find this very offensive. A man once did send me a picture of his penis and I responded with a picture of a cabbage because I was just so taken aback. It was a cabbage I was holding. I was cooking dinner and I was like, why is this man that said like 2 words to me and has a girlfriend? Why has he sent me a picture of his knob? And then I was like, I don't really know what to do with this. So I sent him a picture of a cabbage.
Did he respond?
No.
What? Cabbage pic?
Is that or he thought it was my... Maybe he thought it was my vagina and he was really concerned for me.
There's a lot of things in nature that looks like vaginas.
There are a lot of things.
There's a lot of fruit. There's a shellfish in Ghana. We call it a fanny.
The Athena.
It does.
Is it a fanny fish?
It does, but mussels look like vaginas too. Fannies look like mussels, like the actual flesh of a mussel. You make up in a mussel.
I've never thought about it.
It does, doesn't it? Isn't it weird?
Oh my God.
I think one day someone needs to write. I'm going to write a young adult fiction about things in nature that look like vaginas. There's loads of fruit that looks like vaginas.
Do you think we should do like a game, like Fruit or Fanny?
Yes, I do. I think we should do a game. In actual fact, yes, I absolutely think we should.
Could you make that like a prerequisite of going on your podcast? Is that people have to play Fruit or Fanny with you?
Having a baby, people talk about depression a lot. What having a baby does, I think, more than making you depressed, is it makes you anxious. Yeah, and people are always telling you, you might have depression, and that's actually not what you have. Most of the time you have anxiety, and I will say the one thing I got after I was born, I definitely had post-PTSD, because it's really traumatic having a baby, And I had lots of weird things happen while she was being born and after she was born. And for about a month, maybe 2 months afterwards, I had the most horrendous nightmares.
Oh no.
Horrendous, yeah. Like they were real. And things like leaving her on a bus or putting her in a pushchair and like putting the cover over, and then next time I take the cover up, she's not there. Like all those kind of like I'd wake up like drenched in sweat, stuff like that. And I didn't realise at the time that's what I had, because everyone talks to you about depression.
Yeah.
And actually, anxiety, again, it's an evolutionary thing. Like it makes you fret over your baby. You know, it makes you, and we're mammals, so babies are supposed to be with us the whole time, right? So it's that thing that makes you kind of like have them with you the whole time. Kittens though, I bet, did you get PTSD when you got your kitten?
No, but I did get very anxious that he kept playing with things that might kill him.
Oh, but that's what our babies do. Oh, amount of times I look at my child and there's something in her mouth.
Yeah.
What have you eaten? What have you eaten? It'll be like a bit of her nappy. It's like, how did you tear off piece of your nap? Like, were you that determined? They're absolutely ridiculous. Hairbands.
Yeah.
So she can't wear hairbands anymore. I was like, where's your hairband gone? And it was just hanging out of her mouth.
Yeah. There's
God.
so many things I used to leave lying around the flat that I can't anymore because,
And your cat's teething, isn't it?
He's teething. I did not know kittens could teeth, but he's teething.
You know what you need? You need antenatal kitten classes.
I do.
To learn how to look after these kittens.
Yeah. To learn how to be a proper kitten mum and deal with them when they're, you know, licking their own balls in the living room.
when they're wanky.
Yeah.
Give them some privacy. Oh my God, this is a normal and natural part of nature. They're just exploring their sexuality. Oh my God.
Do you think I should buy him some porn?
Buy him a girl cat or guy cat. Might be gay.
Oh, he could be.
Yeah.
Well, shall I like lay out a variety of porn for him?
See what he goes for.
Yeah.
I don't know what cat porn looks like a calendar.
I don't know.
Calendar. I don't know.
I don't know if we'd get arrested if we tried to find out. Yeah. He's with his dad watching cricket.
That's what they're saying.
I'm wanking.
Yeah, we're just watching the cricket, quote unquote. Yeah, I bet they are. Kate, this has been enlightening and eye-opening.
Thank you.
Tell us again what we should be looking out for, or where we should be looking for an announcement about your soon-to-be published new young adult fiction work of literature.
I should be making an announcement in the next couple of weeks on my social media, which is at @KateElizWeston.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me around.
So that's what happened when Kate Weston came to keep my company. I think we covered it all. I'm so appreciative of her sharing her stories of her teenage years and her young adult years, and how that helped her become a creative, or even better, how becoming a creative helps her get over those things. I hope you've got as much out of that conversation as I did. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please like, share, follow, subscribe, tell your mates, do whatever you normally do with podcasts you like, and I will see you next time.